Their season when your patience is stellar. It's big.
Mine's never been there.
So
He just
Never
sits
happened.
there and
Look
listens.
at him at that traffic light. He's singing a worship song.
Well, hello and welcome to the Pastor's Hangover Podcast. Right off the bat, you will know that I am not Melissa.
Not at all.
She apparently took some PTO that none of us agreed on, but I am going to be leading this today, so please stay tuned. I promise it won't be awful. But I want to go ahead and introduce our fellow podcastees. We got Pastor Daryl,
what's up?
the elusive for the past month, Pastor Craig, but is now back with us.
The elusive,
Having fun, man.
infamous.
Having fun.
The infamous, that's probably better. I was trying to think of a good
Elusive,
adjective.
infamous.
And new campus pastor, Matt Perry.
You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
People thought he was a security guy. Look, he looks
That's
like
right.
that.
Does, man.
Like security or a bouncer.
I feel more
It's cool
secure
to
when
have
he's
a
in the
rough-
room.
Somebody's got to
looking
make us
guy
feel
that-
safe
yeah.
around here. So I got
love
it.
it.
He's doing it.
So Matt,
Suncoast campus.
Yeah.
Let's go, Suncoast.
new campus
Yeah.
pastor.
Yeah.
And you guys are portable, right?
We are, yeah. So come check us out. Just let
Absolutely.
the curiosity come and let
It's
you
awesome.
check us
I've
out.
been there. You were
Yeah.
there last week.
I was
It's
there this
awesome.
weekend.
Good vibe.
They were
Yeah,
rocking
it
it.
is.
man.
We
Good
love
vibe.
it, man. We love doing church there.
Yeah.
Even during the tropical storm,
During
which
the
Come on.
people were still coming to church
They
in
were.
a
That's
tropical
right.
storm.
That
I
showed
was-
us who the real Christians are.
Hello,
Yeah.
where the rest
Yeah.
of
well,
it?
I was
The faithful few.
on Sunday. I did ask the crowd a couple times. I was like, "How many of you guys have been in Florida less than 2 years?" I was surprised the number of people that were there
Yeah.
because normally the new Floridians are the ones that look at
Scared.
the TV
Right.
and they
Yeah.
go, "Oh no,
Yeah.
it's the end of it." And so I'll ask this question, kind of starting off because I got this question after I got done. What level of hurricane would make you worry? What level of hurricane would make you?
Yeah.
And we'll start with how long have you been in Florida, Matt?
I'm raised in Florida.
Okay, so we'll
you
start with
already
the
know
guy
my answer.
that
You
has
already
been
know
there.
my
There is
answer.
no level.
The
Yeah.
least amount, Daryl. What level of hurricane makes you?
I think the level would be based on the people who have been here the longest.
So you looked at everybody.
I looked
else.
to them.
Okay.
I was like, how much will he panic? Then that's when I'll begin to panic. And other than that, I'm like, rain is rain and wind is wind.
Yeah.
We'll be all right.
Yeah. All right.
I
Pastor
mean,
Greg.
I've been in Florida all my life. I mean, we know the worst thing is flooding, right? If you have a concrete home, you're going to be pretty good. So I don't think
Yeah.
there's a level that would
Yeah.
make me want to go somewhere. Just,
Yeah. Matt.
Yeah, well, we've seen, like Pastor Craig, I've been in Florida for a long time, so we've seen them come, we've seen the track, and then it always changes somehow. And so we've dodged a lot. So
Yes.
I'm pretty patient. I live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of people that aren't from Florida, and so they start boarding up, they start putting up the,
Yeah.
the shades on the windows.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty calm.
Is a lot of work.
It
That's
is a
the
lot-
other
that
side.
is a lot of
Bro,
work.
I'm like, if it doesn't come, I'm gonna be angry that I
There's
put
people in my
all this
neighborhood that still
work.
kept them up from 2 years ago. They haven't even brought
Oh,
them
wow.
down. I think
That's,
they're using them as blackout shades. So they can
that's
It
bad.
sleep
is because
in.
it's
They're
dark
like Christmas
inside.
lights. It's just
If
like
you've
I have to
ever
sleep 'em.
if you've ever put them up before, your house is dark
Dark.
on the
yeah.
inside.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I went through. I grew up in South Florida, so I went through Andrew and a bunch of those like over and over again.
Andrew was bad.
and Andrew was insane. That was the one that was off the charts. But yeah, it's gotta for me. It's gotta hit us directly every single time it goes. Tampa's been so lucky, but if it goes out in the Gulf and then comes back, then I'm going, okay, something may happen. But now if I live in South Tampa,
Yeah.
for sure.
a hard thunderstorm,
And they're flooded. Yeah.
just the flooding that
just-
happens.
Just 7
But,
minutes of rain will
no.
make you nervous. When we first moved here, when my family first moved here, it was the hurricane
What was the name of it? Yeah.
Ian, was it? No,
Yeah.
not Ian. Was it Ian?
It may have been
2 years
I
ago?
lose track.
Yeah. Welcome to
And
Florida.
that was
right?
our first. My wife had been here for 2 weeks. No, just a week. The first week
yeah.
she got here, we didn't even have all our stuff in our house, and it was tornado season, and we had never experienced that ever
Hurricane?
before. Hurricane season.
Yeah.
So we had never experienced that. And our neighbors across the street who had been there for 47 years, they never boarded up their house. They never left the property. We went over there, sat with them for 2 hours. They were like, "Don't worry about it. You'll be fine." I wake up the next morning, and this guy's boarding up his house.
He changed his
He
mind.
changed his mind just like that.
And your wife loved that.
Yeah, I pull out my driveway. His name is Larry. Larry, if you're watching, I pull out my driveway. Spent 2 hours with Larry. He was like, "Don't worry about it. We've never done it." I pull out of my driveway to go to the gas station, and Larry's boarding up his house. And I roll down the window. I was like, "Larry, what are you doing?" And Larry looks at me and goes, "My wife told me to do it."
Yep.
There you
And
go.
There you go.
And
That's
I
what
was
happens.
You got to do it.
so
then.
frustrated.
No, but I mean, I really was surprised. I was very, because we were kind of making bets on what the 11 o'clock service would be, and I was like, man, this is great that people came out. They were ready for it. So
awesome.
Good job.
But yeah, so this past week we talked about King Jehoshaphat, or and I said in my sermon because I tried. This was one of those names where I looked up the way you say it, and I had different commentaries tell me different things.
Yeah.
Jehoshaphat, or Yehoshaphat, which is the Hebrew. So either way you say it, you guys are good. But in it, we kind of talked about just his 3 phases of life and what he walked through and all of that. But one of the things that I think definitely stood out that we got some questions from is the idea that Jesus said we are supposed to live in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that we especially see even more nowadays is what does it look like to stand up, but also what does it look like to not be a part of it. So here's kind of the question. What are some ways that you see Christians aligning themselves or allowing themselves, like what is the main ways you feel like they get pulled into the world instead of staying separate?
Wow. There's a lot of you can just see.
So many
physically.
ways.
Yeah. I think one of it is just appearance. Like I heard someone say this: you look like what you admire.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're saying, and you don't have to try to look weird or anything, but I'm seeing a lot of Christians trying to look like the world.
Yeah.
Like dress like the world, act like the world, get tatted up like the world. And not that anything's wrong with being fashionable or creative or anything like that, but there's a limit. You go, well, wait a minute, I can't tell the difference now. Now I don't know what the difference is, and it's become so hard to tell the difference. I'm not going to say this person's name, but I'll use an example. He's a popular artist, gospel artist, Christian artist, and he's wearing suits with no shirt. And you're going, oh, okay, you should at least have a T-shirt on. So why do you think that that's okay? What showed you that I can just be out here with no clothes on almost and doing that because that's what the world does and it's okay. And so there's been this sense, even in the Christian world, there's been a sense that it's how close can I get to the world and still be a Christian?
Right.
And that's what it's looked like. And we see that in what movies we watch, what music we listen to, how we dress, how we act, how we speak to people.
Yeah.
There's been a wave of pastors who are cursing from the stage. And then justifying it and going, says, hey, this is just the way I'm trying to connect.
Yeah.
I'm trying to connect with people.
I think though, and that's some of the outward things which are important, but I'm looking at lifestyle. I mean, I'm talking to believers in the room. I'm amazed how many believers, because of the world's cultural influence, back 20 years ago, for a believer, it was taboo to live together. I mean, you just didn't do it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, we love God, and I'm not saying they don't, but they've allowed those values to kind of, we just want to, test it out. Yeah. I mean, that's just one, I hate to say it, but that's one thing I'm amazed by how casual. I mean, we shouldn't date the way the world dates.
Right.
To the single people, there's a way we can be honorable to do it the right way.
Yeah.
That's another way I see where our lifestyle should reflect that. Again, we're not perfect, but there should be different. There should be a difference of how we live. And then the other thing I think is amazing to me is, and this is something we always got to navigate. The whole idea of standing up for truth is hard to do because God's truth is not popular right now.
Yeah.
And we're canceled or criticized or called a narrow right wing, whatever. But there's a time where we have to say, no, this is what God's word says in the right tone, right? We talked about it, unconditional love, but uncompromising truth.
Yep.
And that we got to walk that out. And we as Christians cannot be ashamed of who we are and what we believe. But I'll be honest with you, I think the pendulum has swung where we're afraid sometimes. And I don't know, God doesn't want us to be afraid.
Yeah. You brought up the point, evil's going to be waiting for you at your door.
Absolutely.
And I think the point that I tried to convey to a lot of people is that when you leave here, you're going to go into work on Monday morning. And I think there's 2 types of pressures that people face. They're going to face social pressure, and then they're going to face cultural pressure.
That's true.
And both of those, man, can really make people want to conform to what they're seeing, or they want to fit in, or they want to be a part of that
fit in, that's it.
conversation,
Yeah.
right? And so they're talking differently, and they're
And the
sort of
Bible says, "Don't be
compromising.
conformed to this world."
That's
It doesn't
right.
mean you're weird.
Yeah.
You don't have to be weird
Yeah.
or brash or abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I think in these next years we have to take a little better stand.
Yep.
No, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I've seen Christians do is take a lot of beliefs from culture and try to intertwine it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it's like, well, I have the ability to make up my own
Yeah.
decisions on this, or
My
I
truth.
what's right.
Yeah.
And we've all heard people say this. Well, God told us it was okay to move in with each other. No, he
No, he
didn't.
didn't.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. I remember a girl getting really angry with me. And I was like, God told me. I'm like, no, he didn't, because that goes against his word, or God has decided this for me. And I think it's so easy nowadays to just take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and we want to make up our own Christianity.
Yeah.
And so, but it's one of those things, I think it just happens slowly over time. Nobody goes from like the greatest Christian in the world to like doing the worst things. Normally it's just allowing a little bit of things in. We've talked about it so many times, from the music we listen to the shows that we watch. I mean, it was funny. I didn't get any emails, anybody defending 50 Shades of Grey. I didn't think that they would. But actually, what's funny is I did get some texts like, hey, you should have brought up this show or this show. And I'm like, maybe. That probably would have hit home for some people. But it's true. I mean, everything now that you watch on TV, and we've talked about this before, like everything now that they're putting out that's from Netflix or from Hulu or from Amazon, all has stuff in it that you're going, why are we throwing that in there? And so it's one of those things, I think, we tend to align ourselves slowly over time, and what we do is we stop getting into God's word and we start listening to culture more.
Yeah.
And look, when you just listen to culture, you're going, that kind of makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
That kind of makes sense.
I think one of the things I've heard a lot of is you hear somebody say, "Hey, I'm at peace with it,"
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of stuff that you can be at peace with that ain't right for you.
Right.
Like even people living together. Well, if the Bible says this and you're not supposed to live together, well, I'm at peace with it, and I'm at peace with this is how I live, and I'm at peace with this is my lifestyle. There's a lot of stuff that you can be at peace with. You could be at peace with flipping the driver off.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
Just because
But he deserved it, so I'm at peace with
yeah,
it.
you can be at peace with being angry
Yeah.
or bitter about someone. Or I've heard people say, "Hey, I'm not going to forgive them, and I'm at peace with it." And that's just the way it. No, just because you're at peace with something doesn't make that thing right or okay. And so, and God doesn't need your peace to make something
justify it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
it's good.
justify it because you feel comfortable with it, and
Right.
and usually your comfort is a product of, man, we've let so many things go.
Yeah.
Because when you have the right standards, there are certain things you go, oh man, that offends me. That darkness offends my light.
Mhm.
And light should be offending darkness all the time. It's like, no, this is what I think
Yeah.
it is, whether you like it or not, whether it agrees with you or not.
Yeah.
And I get it. And I understand why you're offended by it.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad you're offended.
Right.
You should be offended because
Right.
you're living in darkness and I'm sharing light.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to change my light
Right.
because it doesn't fare well in the social or cultural
That's right.
construct.
Right.
I've still got to be the light. Or the conversation of I've heard people misinterpret this, where Paul says, "I must become all things to all men so that I can save some." And so they said, "Well, I've got to do everything."
Yeah.
I was like, "No,
No. I'm gonna smoke weed because they smoke weed, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna connect with them. That's not what he's saying. I think
No.
common ground. We can find some common ground,
Yeah.
find some bridges, be fishers of men, use the right bait. But yeah,
yeah." And
Paul
it's
was
always-
traveling from culture to culture.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, hey, I'm gonna find a way to understand their culture so I
Exactly.
can reach them where they are.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's
Not
the most
compromise
important
my
thing.
faith.
Like
Yeah.
Jesus never compromised who he was.
Right.
No.
Like you
Can't do
didn't you didn't see Jesus going, "Man, I want to talk to this guy, so let me put some tattoos on my neck." Or I'm going to talk to this guy, so let me actually do their lifestyle. No. When Jesus showed up, it was always to transform. Jesus never left changed.
Yeah.
They did.
Right.
That's right.
So it's like,
we need to be the influencers.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and the things we have in common with everybody, we're all going through hard times. We're all going through temptations. We all go through, and that's the same thing we have in common with Jesus. He
Yeah.
went through those things. So, I mean, truthfully, what do we connect more on? The TV shows we watch, or we both go through hard times?
Yeah.
Like those are the things that connect us. Those are the things that kind of bring us in that moment. And so it's one of those things that's tough many times to have the conversation, because you may have brought up like what you believe, But at the same time, as pastors, we want you to live in the middle of what God has for you.
Yeah.
Like we want you to be blessed by it and all that. I mean, that's one of the hardest things I've had to tell people. I'm like, you're living with each other. God's not blessing your relationship. You're asking for it, but you are just blatantly going, I'm not going to do it your way. So God's not blessing it. You may have your own version of peace, but when things start to go, you're walking without God. And so that's the hard part in that, I think.
And yet
But-
we can empathize with people. It is tension. There's tension when
Yeah.
you're trying to live a certain way and the whole world's living a different way.
Yeah.
We're not saying it's easy.
Yeah.
No.
That's why we need God's word. That's why we need to be praying every day. That's why we get God give me courage and boldness to
Right.
to not compromise today. Renew your mind. Don't be conformed to this world, but renew your mind with the word of God.
Yep.
All those things come into play. So we're not saying it's easy, but man, we need to be the influencers.
Yeah, we
So,
felt that tension. We lived that tension, but it's coming to the point of saying, what do I want more? Acceptance or to be the light that's going to bring people to
Right.
Christ?
Yeah.
And to have people ask questions, how do you do this so different? How do you live different?
Yeah.
And
It's
when,
true.
Yeah, and when you want that more, when you desire that more, it's a little easier to stand your ground.
Well,
right?
well
And
think
stand
about
in
it.
faith.
Proverbs says the fear of man is a snare.
Yeah.
And if we're more afraid of what people think than what God thinks, we're going to have to make some adjustments. It's tough, but man, God needs strong believers, you know?
Amen.
Absolutely. That can stand up and go, this is what I believe. I love you no matter what.
Right. That's right.
I
But
will
this is
be
who
there
we
for
are.
you.
Yeah.
All of those things. Like, I think that's what, I mean, when we've redefined love is I'm going to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
but your response doesn't change my ability to care for
Right.
you.
That's true.
I'm going to do it no matter. That's what God does. I mean, I still love you.
That's right.
I want you to make the right choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we
good.
fail a lot over and over again. And so, and in the same line of that question, I think one of the things that was asked was, so how do we effectively really do this, but how do we check ourselves on a regular basis? Like, what is the things that we can naturally do that allows us to go, okay, I have started to align with the wrong things?
Wow, you mean awareness?
Awareness,
To-
yeah.
to-
Like, how do we stay aware?
Be in community,
Because
number
we got-
one.
'cause
Have
I'll-
some brothers, sisters around you. Be in a group to where they help you with your alignment. I mean, I have people in my life that, and when you're struggling, you have people to go to. I mean, I really believe the word, groups. I mean, all those things help. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. There's got to be the word. There's got to be communion, and there's got to be consistency. Like you've got those things have to be so regularly a part of your life. If the Bible is saying, "Don't conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind," what are you doing to renew your mind? To renew means I've got to think in a way that I've never thought before.
Right.
So you have to. Consistency creates the product that you get. So if you're reading the Bible every day, if you're in God's word, or you're praying, you're connecting with the right wise people, it's going to change the frame of how you think.
Yeah.
What's the quote that says that you're a product of the people you hang around?
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15, bad company ruins good morals. Some of us may have to make some relationship adjustments.
Yep.
And
We're not strong enough to be with certain people.
Right.
and you can see by the like your life is usually a product of the decisions that you've made. So you go, man, how am I thinking? What am I doing? Is it consistent with what I want it to be, what God wants it to be? So the awareness is going, I need to sit down. I think anyone that says, I need to check myself, that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Like it's not the prayer, it's not the reading, it's going, yo, I need to check myself. That's the beginning of going, yeah. And after that, then let the other things happen. Be intentional about checking yourself.
The Holy Spirit will bring conviction in the areas you need to. He will.
And if you're married, your spouse will bring conviction to you.
I'd rather it come from just about anybody else, right?
But sometimes there's those blind spots that only
yeah.
your wife
There
can
is.
see, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
There is.
You know, Tracy and I got into it the other day about one of my blind spots. And it's like, I didn't see that. And thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't even see that you saw it that way. I didn't know that was a thing. But now I know that. And when you've got good people who really love you in your life and who won't just be a cheerleader going, yeah, keep doing what you're doing, but someone who's really committed to saying, hey, you're good at this, but you're bad at this.
Right.
Keep an eye on this. keep leaning this way. I need those. I think we all.
And give them permission to
Give
say
them
that. That's the
permission.
biggest thing too. It's one thing to have community, but sometimes they need that permission. Hey, I give you
Yeah.
permission to check my blind
Yeah.
spots.
Yes.
You know,
Because
Absolutely.
a lot of us along the way have told somebody the truth and been blasted for it. And so it's not natural for us to have relationships like that. I would say one of the biggest things I see, it's kind of funny when I took over our young adult ministry years ago, one of the things I always heard was, oh, they're always so offended by everything. And I'm like, actually, they're not bad. Like, I know there is the ones that we see on TV and
Yeah.
all that, but for most of the time, you just don't talk down to them. They're listening. I think one of the things that's harder is the longer we live our life, when we hear something that's different from what we've always heard, our first response is offense instead of listening. And so I think one of the greatest things we can do is really go, I'm going to choose not to be offended when people come to me with any truth, even the emails that we don't like, and go, is there something in here that I need to learn?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that's the hardest thing, I think, a lot of times, is we learn things, we go, our first, it's easier to be offended than it is to
Yeah,
learn.
I think on the delivery end, we need to be able to bring truth to people, but truth isn't a hammer.
Yeah.
It can't be, but it says speak the truth in love. So how can I love it? Even when you do it in a truthful but loving way, you're gonna have maybe some not good, but do your part.
Yeah.
Speak the truth in love. Don't be a hammer. Well, I'm the hammer. I'm gonna go bring the word. That's not how you do it. That's self-righteousness. That's
Yeah.
what the Pharisees did.
Yeah.
We need to bring truth lovingly to people.
Yeah.
And it's up to them how they want to respond to
Right.
it.
If you're overly excited to tell somebody the truth, your heart's probably in the wrong place.
I
Like,
can't
if you
wait
can't
to give
wait-
it to them.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then we've all been there, especially like
Yeah.
we're in the shower thinking through the argument that we're going to have or what we wish we
Right.
would have had.
Yep.
Drill them to the wall, and they never respond the way that they
Yeah.
did, the way that I thought. But that's something that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But so here's a question that we've got. How do you fully surrender to Jesus when you already thought you did?
that's good.
Ooh. How do
already
you
thought-
fully surrender when you already thought you did? I would say it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're always surrendering. It's not a one time. And I think we've been made to believe, man, I said the prayer,
Right.
so it's all good. It's like, no, you're dying daily is what Paul said. I got to die every day because I'm a mess every
That's
day.
it. That's a good word.
So,
Yeah.
so you're
It is a
always
process.
surrendering, and you, it's the awareness again, man. I've always got to be checking myself. I always got to know what's going on. I always have to stay connected. Psalms 1: Blessed the man who walketh not in the seat of the scornful, around bitter people, or sit around unwise counsel. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in that law he meditates both day and night. So meaning you can't just read one Bible study and be like, we're good.
Yeah.
No, I got to do this regularly if I want to live in the middle of where God wants me to be for my life. So
Yeah, that's good.
it's constantly. It's like, man, am I fully surrendered? Every day. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let me check myself again.
It's a process, just like you said. You think and I believe you're right. I think I'm fully surrendered, but then as we grow to other parts of maturity in our walk with God, he goes, there's an area that's not surrendered.
right.
Yeah.
Then there's another one. You go, okay, I've arrived. No, you never. Here's another area. So it is a process, and but that's a good question. I think you got a good heart asking that kind of question.
And you can only surrender what you're aware of.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
And so in that
Yeah.
moment, you believe you are.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, God has a way of uncovering things. You're like, dang it, that too.
Yeah.
But
I
Go
think
ahead,
you look
man.
at your prayer life too,
Yeah.
and the things you don't pray about probably are the things you haven't surrendered.
Yeah.
So like where I feel like I'm still in control of this, or I don't need help here,
Yeah.
are areas that I haven't fully
Yeah.
surrendered over to God. So when you ask, how do you know you've surrendered? I think realizing how helpless you are in certain
good.
situations, right?
Yeah.
And how much we need God.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we're relinquishing control over to Him.
That's
It's
good.
good. There's no season of life where all your fruit is the same size. So it's always developing and growing at different different rates. There's a season when your patience is stellar. It's big.
Mine's never been there.
So
Wow.
this is
Right.
an area that he's
No one's ever said
Constant.
Greg has stellar patience.
I'm with you on
man,
that one.
Craig
Never
just,
happened.
he just
Never
sits
happened.
there and
Look
listens.
at him at that traffic light. He's singing a worship song, even though it's a 3-minute light, and or I'm in
see,
line,
he's
the
still
grocery
surrendering.
line.
That-
Yeah.
You see how small
No,
that
I'm
fruit
not.
is?
Yeah, it's not even I think it's a seed right now. I don't see any fruit there.
We are authentic.
That's right.
Grace
That's
Family
right.
Church.
I've literally gotten to the point at grocery places that I go, I don't switch lines because I feel like the moment I do, every time it's slowed down or somebody,
Wow.
that's the person that's going to pay by check or have something else like every single time. And I'll see it open. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. You should go, but I'm going to stay right here.
You know, I will say this when you talk about the word surrender.
Yeah.
You know, surrender is it does bring peace in your life.
That's right.
Mhm.
You know, it's that white flag of surrender isn't, oh, I'm giving up to the enemy. I'm not talking about that kind of when you come to a place where you know you're surrendering something, you have peace about it. You know, I had a guy at one time that it was a long story. The guy stole money from me one time through a real estate deal, ate me up, and I finally, when I got to that place of just, you know, I had to come to a place of surrender. Man, there was just a peace that came over me,
Yeah.
and that's a good part of surrender. You
Yeah.
know?
Amen.
That's good. I had this question come to me on the pavers, and they said, "How do you respond?" So we live in a world right now that has a lot of new age things.
Mhm.
You got crystals, you got
Yeah,
the
tarot
bowl,
cards,
all
you
the
got-
different things. How do you respond as a Christian when you have somebody come up and they want to either perform something or go, "Hey, this is a great stress relief," or something like that? You know, it's a new age practice. How do you respond to it in a way that helps them understand where you're coming from, but also just doesn't? I don't know. How do you do it in the right way?
You say
Because
no.
I literally had
No,
somebody
no.
come up and it was like a tuning thing, and the idea is you tune your body through it, and she's like, I didn't know. I mean, I told her that I didn't believe in it, but I didn't know, should I allow her to do it, or did,
Do you want to give that away? Because we're
we're going to
talking
talk about
this
it. Well, we're
in-
going to talk about that even more. So if we want
Yeah.
to give just a simple
Um,
answer to it,
This, I mean, dig a little
Yeah.
deeper for just a moment. So they're into all that because
Yeah.
they're searching.
yeah,
yeah.
So I look at it as an opportunity to create a conversation at maybe then or down the road, but I wouldn't participate in it.
Yeah.
No.
I don't participate in some of these, you know, but you don't want to be, again, mean to them. They don't
Right.
know. They don't know what they don't know. They're lost. They're searching. So just be gentle in your response. But you can say, yeah, I don't need, my body's in perfect rhythm because I pray and I'm reflecting on God. That's how I find that kind of peace. Have you ever tried that? I mean, you know, but
yeah.
but they're searching, man. When they're into all these other spiritual new age things, they're just searching they're not satisfied,
Yeah.
you know? And, but yeah, I wouldn't participate with it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. We,
No. Yeah.
just so you guys know, we are in October. We're doing our series. Is it October?
Apologetics.
Apologetic series. And
You
so we're
asked
going to
for
be,
it.
one of the
Yeah.
things we're going to be talking about is kind of the new age, because we are. I mean, it's one of the ways that people are adding to Christianity.
Yeah.
Or like this idea of like, I love God, but I'm also spiritual. Or I love God and I love all these things.
Or
And-
universalism. All
Yes.
religions are the same. They're all equal. No, they're not. I mean, they just aren't. You know, other many ways to God. You know, all that, and it sounds so nice.
It does.
Yeah.
It'd be
But-
great, right?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, then God would be a sadist.
Yeah.
Because why do you kill your son? But
Yeah.
that's kind of the
Unnecessary.
side to it. But yeah, and the reason we talk about these things is we get emails all the time going, I didn't realize it was a different religion, or I didn't realize that was a cult, or I didn't realize, because it can sound so right. If you're,
Yeah.
oh no, this is just something I do also. Well, spiritualism, here's the hard part about it, is what side are you tapping into?
Yeah.
Right. Which is
And so-
actually we're promoting now. But what's cool about that is in this series, you're going to talk about why we can trust the Bible,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the reliability. Because what it all comes down to, do we trust man's word
Yeah.
Right.
or God's word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, it comes down to faith, and I think it's control thing too, because the New Age they still feel in control of their own
Right.
spirituality,
Yeah.
and so it's not letting that go. But I've had some conversations, and it depends on the level of the relationship,
Yeah.
right? Like where you can go with that
That's
conversation.
true. That's a
Some-
great word. Say it again.
It depends on the level of the relationship on
Yeah.
where you can go with that
Yeah.
conversation. And I've had somebody where I've had a pretty good relationship with, and one of the questions that I asked is, I said, go back to a time and tell me when it was that you felt like God wasn't not enough,
Yeah.
where your faith in God was not enough to meet this need that you have. And that really coincided with when they started to take
Adding
control
these
of
other
their
things.
spirituality. And
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so,
good.
Yeah,
Because faith is not easy.
right.
And we would rather it be in our own hands. Absolutely. Every time. All right, I got a good question for you guys. Since school is coming back, I know Matt, you got a couple kids going back.
twin
You
boys.
got
Yep.
you got some college and
one more.
in high school.
Yeah,
and
high
Craig, you got some grandkids going to school.
Yeah.
What
That's a
is
whole
what is
nother
some
level.
good advice to prepare your kids for this next school season?
Wow.
What is something you would say to them as they're heading back because they've just been in your care for a couple months and they're about to go back into an environment that we no longer control a lot of times. And so,
Well,
what's some
you
good
got
advice?
teenagers and you got teenagers. I'd like to hear from you.
I got middle
Yeah.
schoolers and you got
Yeah.
high schoolers. I mean, I think our biggest thing with our kids is we keep them on the offense instead of being on the defense with a lot of things that are coming at them. So we give them a biblical perspective and we hit these things up front so they're not learning them on the bus. They're not learning them in the classroom.
And your kids are going to public school.
They
am I
go to
correct?
public school.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
eighth
Okay.
grade in public school,
Right.
middle school.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
No, that's good. We literally just had this conversation with our daughter last night. To just go, hey, she starts school next week, private school, but still stuff
stuff
happens.
everywhere.
There's stuff
Absolutely.
everywhere. It's like, hey, just let's maintain the schedule that we've been on, and if we need to create a new schedule, a new pattern, because this consistency is going to give you strength. It's brought you to where you are right now. We've been strong this summer. We've done a lot of great things. So how do we continue to maintain this when you get in? School can be more stressful. Being around friends and that culture, that can be more stressful. So here's the things we want to make sure that we maintain. We're still reading. We're still praying. We're still connecting. We're still and I want to be comfortable with where you are. And I'm not comfortable if you're not comfortable with sharing. And so you've got to be comfortable enough to get, I don't need a whole dissertation about your day, but I want you to come to me regularly. Hey, what happened today? Is there anything we can?
It's a father of girls
So
right there
that-
speaking.
That's a father of girls, bro.
But that brings me to
Yeah.
another point. I
Yeah.
mean, I think you always ask questions to your kids
Yeah.
every day. How are things, and kind of know who their friends are. That's a big one.
Yeah.
But you guys live in a day where now you have technology and phones. What
Yeah.
suggestions would you give to parents if there's no accountability for that phone? I can't imagine. You got to figure. I mean, my granddaughter's 13. She's not getting a phone.
Yeah.
They just said no till a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say they're 15, or well, how do you navigate that with them? I mean, I just think I don't think it's intentional, but that's like opening your front door and letting a bunch of
that's right.
stuff come in. So talk to parents, can you, about
Can
what
let
you
me just
guys
say
have done?
something
Yeah,
just real
absolutely.
quick, just an idea for parents is if your kid has a phone or a computer that it doesn't have anything on it that you're not able to catch up on, especially if you got a boy, let's say boy, it's like back in the day putting a stack of Playboys and the worst things in their room and saying, don't look at that.
Yeah.
That's literally what it's doing. And you may have the best kid in the world, but they don't have the ability to deal with that.
Right. And
They
it
don't-
gets sent to them sometimes.
It's and so it's one of those things. Like there are so many programs now. Like my son has just a very simple computer, the laptop that stays in the open.
Yep.
And I have something on his computer, and I told him. I don't like the idea of not telling the kid that
No,
there's something
tell
on
him,
there.
"Hey, we
I
got-
go, hey, this is
Yeah.
on there. I see everything you type.
I'll be notified.
I see everything you're walking through, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you this because I want you to know that, but I also don't want you to fall into these things. And so,
Okay, so
we've
how
had
about
the
phones?
conversations. What age you get them?
Well, you guys are dealing with it. So I'm
yeah,
just-
you guys. Mine does
so
not have.
then
it
what do
yet.
you do though? Is there
Yeah.
things you can put
Yes,
on the phones?
Oh
absolutely.
yeah. They've
Oh, yeah.
gotten Apple phones used to be awful. Now they're actually way
it's really
better
good.
now at what you can do. And I know this. I've known several parents that get an old Apple phone, sign into it with the same stuff, and you will get all the text messages.
Yeah.
You'll get all the things. And you may go,
figure
oh,
it
that's over
out.
the top. But guys, what do you, when all of a sudden somebody starts sending them something
Yep.
Yeah.
that they don't know what to deal with, or a friend, or it's you're there to help them. They don't have the ability at that age. I mean, it's so funny what we're talking about. Oh, they have the ability to choose these things. No, they don't. And they don't have the ability to choose what's right when they're going through it. But Matt, you're
Yeah,
about to
here's
say
the
something.
tension I think that parents have. Like we grew up, we didn't have phones. We didn't, our parents didn't know where we were. Sometimes we check in when we're supposed to check in, right? So there's the one tension of wanting to know where your kids are, right? So kids are getting phones at a younger age, and even our kids. But the first phones they got, they weren't pretty.
Right.
They weren't iPhones. They were prepaid AT&T phones, right? And didn't have a lot of the features on there.
Yeah.
But we could call them. We knew where they were. We could check in on them, and if anything happened when they were at school, they could
Did
get a hold
those
of
phones
us.
have internet access? I'm just curious.
They did
But
have.
you were able to monitor that.
Yeah, we
And there's
can mon-
ones called Gab phones and stuff like that you can get that now look like iPhones,
Yeah.
but don't have any of that access outside of just what you. That's what I'm saying. It's different based on it.
But now that they're older, you know, Apple's great. We all have Apple phones. We got the family plan, so I can monitor everything. I can limit what I want to limit at a certain time every night. Their phone's shutting down.
Yep.
And so, you know, 8:30 at night, they got to get ready for bed. They're not able to get. They can't access the internet. They can't access anything. They need to. Their minds need to be able to rest.
So just
and
get
be
the
able
right
to-
things on that equipment.
Absolutely.
then,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah,
And manage. You got to
Yeah,
manage
you
their
have to.
access. I was telling a couple of while ago, and they were just letting their daughter just kind of watch anything. I said, would you let all those people show up to your front door?
Mm-hmm.
Just randomly, people you don't know,
Right.
you don't know what they believe,
That's
what
so
their
good.
philosophy. Would you just let all of that just come to the front door? No. Well, that's what you're doing by allowing her all of that access.
Yeah.
She has access to the whole world. You don't know what they're telling her. She's in her room. She's doing it consistently. And then you're wondering why when she comes out of her room, she doesn't want to listen to you. She doesn't want to believe what you believe. All these different kind of things. No, my job is to protect you
Right.
and to cover you and keep you and manage at the best of my ability what you see in my home.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Really good. And I think how what you said earlier, you need to tell them we're going to be able to see everything. We have these, so they know that they're not going to text. They're going to get a text, receive a text. We're going to see it all.
yeah.
I mean, that rule curbs a lot of it right there.
Check your kids' phones.
Check-
There's
Right.
no privacy
There's
when it
no-
comes to
why?
phones.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
tell and walk your kids through it.
Yeah.
Tell them, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing
Yes.
it. And I mean, that's one of the things about youth ministry, being in youth ministry. I have a ton of stories.
Yeah.
And I can go, this is what I know happened to somebody else.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I'm not them. I know you're not.
Right.
But I also don't want this to happen
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to walk through this. It's because I care about you and I love you.
Right.
But guys, it's about just being involved in your kid's
Yeah.
life.
Being involved.
You said it earlier, and I tell my oldest son, my youngest says everything that's on his mind, so I don't have to worry about him. But our oldest, I'm like, son, we're always open to any conversation.
Yeah.
There is no question you're going to get in trouble for. And sometimes he'll come up with things that he heard or sexual phrases. He has no idea what he is. He just says them randomly, like, hey, we'll talk about that later. He's like, what does it mean? I'm like, we'll talk about that later. Not in front of everybody. But we're like, we're going to have an open discussion because we don't want you to, confusion always leads to worse decisions. And so we don't want you to have to walk through that.
But pray for them,
But
parents.
absolutely.
They can win. I like be on the offensive.
That's
Be a
right.
light. Be an example.
And
get them in a Christian
yes.
club.
Yep.
First priorities in a lot of our schools here.
Yep.
We support first priority.
We do.
In a lot of the public schools, and man, find out about it. It teaches them to be a good Christian leader.
And get them involved in church. Look,
Yeah.
And a lot of youth pastors here, they may say they don't like it. I've never had a kid that was forced to come for an extended period of time that didn't end up liking
Yeah.
youth group.
Especially
sooner or
our
later-
youth ministries.
Yeah.
They're dynamic and great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They end up enjoying, and you've got somebody else now at that point that can run interference for you, that may hear some things, that may walk through some things. And my dad regularly had conversations with my youth leader. He goes, hey, if it's to this level, come and tell me. But if it's something that you can just talk through, then you guys can have that. But you want other adults in your kid's life. You cannot do this by yourself.
Well, let's step on some toes then. So we make them go to school every day, which is important.
Yep.
And we make sure they don't miss their cheerleading practice or their football practice, but they're too tired to go to youth group. What are we teaching them?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and there's a 0.00 something percent chance that they're going to make it as a pro athlete. There's a 100% chance that they're gonna face God and they're gonna they're gonna do it. It's truth.
Yep.
Parents
Good.
be parents.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to be parents.
That's
and it's,
right.
it's like even with I've had the conversations with parents and children. This is my room and I want my privacy. My kids have always known you don't have any privacy.
Yep.
It does not mean that I'm stripping you of your integrity.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I want to be unpopular in my house. But all this stuff belongs to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me and your mother bought this. We bought the phone. We bought the clothes.
Yeah.
Your room. You don't have a room. The room that you're in, I allow you to be in, and so I want you to manage it the way that I want you to manage it, so that you get the best result, so you can live the best version of your life. And so, parents, be parents.
Yep.
And will your kids not like some of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. We don't like some of the rules as adults.
Yeah.
We don't want to go to speed limit. We don't want to pay the taxes. We don't want to. Sure, but those things are for our benefit. And you've got to keep reminding your children it's for your
It's
benefit.
your job.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
your job to be the governor of their lives. It's your job. Hebrews says that God disciplines his children.
Yeah.
And so it shows real love. He goes, God disciplines us because he loves us.
Yeah.
And they may not in a moment understand what you're trying to do, but in the long run, they'll go, yeah, I get it now.
Somewhere back there, they know that the restrictions are there because you care for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they can see it in other kids
Yeah.
where their parents don't
And
put
they
the
will
restrictions on it,
start
and they
to
will
see it.
say,
Yep.
you know, their
But
parents
if you're
must not care
overly
for them.
restrictive, if you're overly so legalistic restrictive,
Yeah.
you're going to force rebellion in their
course.
lives.
Yep.
You have to have rewards. They're doing well.
Absolutely.
You give them responsibilities. Their boundaries are extended.
Yep.
But if you're just so there's a balance in all that. But most parents are on the other end. Just I'm afraid to do anything because they won't like me.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotta
I
let
mean,
them think
that
for
was-
themselves too.
That was the thing with my dad. If we did the right things, my boundaries were greatly. I mean,
Yeah.
my high
You
school,
proved yourself
my
responsible,
senior year,
trustworthy.
my senior year of high school, I did not have a curfew. Now I had to call and say when I was going to be in. All that. Also had to keep a certain grade point average. All these other things, like I had to be up on time for everything. That's fine. He goes, you can stay up late, but if you can't get up in the morning and be a part of our family devotion, you're not going to stay up late anymore. And so there was a lot of checks and balances, but there was that he prepared me for college.
Yeah.
It was preparing me for what's next. And I'm not saying that's with every kid, but I will say this. I just want to brag on a mom that came up afterwards, and she just came up after. She goes, my kids asked me some questions during the message that I didn't understand. Can you help them? And she goes, it's kind of embarrassing. I'm like, no, that's great because you guys have seen that. We've seen this. Kids have questions parents can't answer, and they go, I don't know, just believe.
Yeah.
Help your kids find answers.
Yep.
It's okay that you both have doubts,
Yeah.
but
That's good.
yes. So that'll be our last question for today. We just want to say thank you guys for joining us on the Pastor's Hangover this upcoming week. Pastor Craig, the infamous Pastor Craig, is going to be teaching in our new series, Hello, My Name Is. And
Shalom.
we're going to be talking about the names of God. Pastor
Shalom.
Craig's name is not Shalom.
I
That's
can
the name of
promise
God.
you, if you apply what we say this week, you're going to
Yep.
have peace in the midst of chaos in your life.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
can have inner peace no matter what's going on
Absolutely.
the outside.
Good.
So that's going to be awesome. Then after that, we're going to go into our apologetic series. So we hope you guys will join us. And please remember, throw in some questions underneath there. We'd love to answer them. All right. See you guys next week.